am, and I'll go through this a little bit, I am hired through the Society of Professional Journalists, which is a nonprofit organization geared toward accuracy in journalism, protecting journalists, and also protecting the rights of journalists. But Google has built a bunch of these tools. They've partnered with a bunch of different organizations to push for more accurate information in journalism, but also on different systems. But also to teach journalists how to not be bamboozled by some of this as well. So again, they have a bunch of different products, some specifically geared toward this, some that are existing tools that they have that can be used for these things. But what they realized is it wasn't enough just to build them. They had to get people like me to go out and train. So again, there's a bunch of different things, but also local news. They have a lot of stuff specifically geared toward local news and emerging technologies. So I think as of last week, we've trained 19,000 journalists, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I think I've done about 1,500 of those. But yeah, and we're not just in America. So they've partnered with similar organizations throughout the world to try to do these sort of trainings. So that's me. If you want to tweet about it, here's some things to use for tweeting. I work for a company called Axios, Axios. I am in charge of a lot of their web systems and how our content management system works. I fell into doing programming because I was a data reporter. I used to be like a crime reporter down in Florida, started telling stories using data, wanted to put the data on the internet. Next thing I know, wow, I'm in charge of servers and a bunch of other stuff. And then that's kind of how I ended up here. But I've been doing trainings through the Society of Professional Journalists since I think 2012 is when I actually did my first training. And I've been doing these trainings with them for more than a year and a half. So big fan of SPJ and also a big fan of training and educating. I also wrote a book. It's called Adulthood for Beginners. People said very nice things about it. You should go buy 12 copies. That's the law. But yeah, so there's a really big concern right now for fake news. Public trust in the media is at an all-time low. And there was actually this report from Gallup that showed it's like the lowest it's ever been. More than 19,000 adults were interviewed, and they said that Americans believe that the media have an important role to play in our democracy, yet they don't think that it's being fulfilled currently. And so this isn't just in America. This is an international problem. The same problems the American media are facing, the exact same stuff is happening in other locations as well. So it's not just an American problem. It is anyone who has the internet and there's information problem. So there's a bunch of reports. We're not going to go through them. But is it breaking or is it broken? So like this, breaking, suspect in custody, Parkland shooter at Florida high school, suspect, blah, blah, blah. That's a guy from the TV show The Trailer Park Boys. And look how many times it got retweeted. A lot. Like this shit happens regularly. News organizations get caught like this. Regularly, people think it's very funny to take an image of a well-known person who looks scuzzy or something like that and be like, oh shit, here's what the person looks like. And people share it because their first instinct is, oh, why would someone put that? Do people go on the internet and tell lies? Why, no, they don't do that. So people just start sharing it. All of a sudden, you have people's lives ruined, you have false information, and you have people that are just like, well, I can't trust you because this sort of stuff happens. Even though perhaps the media didn't do this, social media did. Sometimes people have a problem distinguishing between the two. So yeah, the Florida school, like, hoaxes show up really quick, and you'll see pieces quickly about, oh, hey, here's this bullshit thing your uncle probably shared that's not true. And Facebook has been trying to combat this stuff, but what they also found was whenever people would see a little thing that pops up that says, what you're about to share is fake and not real, people would get mad and share it anyway, because how dare you tell me something? It's very fun. You try to combat it, and it actually gets worse. But in the journalistic world, we can combat this sort of stuff through verification, reporting, and again, like stuff like this. People sometimes share videos and show images that they say purports to show something that isn't real. Like right now with the journalist in the Turkish embassy, the Saudi Arabian, all of that. That is like an instance where I'm just like, be very leery of any images that you see, because One, it's not that hard to fake a sort of scrambly looking image and then be like, oh, I received it from such and such. And I'll show you a couple tools that will help you be able to spot check some of that stuff and be able to maybe get a better chance of being able to verify the accuracy of images that you get either from sources or that you see on social media. So, yes, if you ever see a photo of a shark on a nearby interstate, it is bullshit and not real. But these things get shared all the time, and every once in a while it makes it into a real broadcast. People are like, golly, isn't our world strange? It's like, no, you're an idiot and should be a better journalist. So, yeah, this image, that's the bane of my existence. So before using content you find online, do you check, is it the original piece of content? And I'll show you a couple ways of being able to check that. Who captured it? Where was it captured? When was it captured? And why? What's the motivation behind it? And so we'll kind of walk through a couple of these. So again, there are 7 common forms of information. Satire, misleading, imposter, fabricated, so that's just completely not real. False connection, that is where when somebody's just like, oh, this person tripped, they must have cancer and are a lizard person. That's real shit that people think. False context, where they give you information that's clearly not real, or they misread it on purpose to promote whatever their belief is. And manipulated content, that is where they change stuff. Like when you see a shark on the interstate, that's manipulated content. So again, what's the reason behind some of this stuff being shared? So that's one thing that you want to check when you are looking through, when you have some sort of image or video that's been shared through a news organization. Why? You want to view the reason behind it before you perhaps share it with your audience, because again, just because somebody's like an activist or they have a political point of view doesn't mean the video that they took is bad, but perhaps they took a video of this loud cheering crowd in this big stadium, and here's the 90,000 seats that are empty because no one actually showed up to the event. And then people get mad when they show the full context, but tough shit, that's what reality is sometimes. It's a similar thing with a lot of stuff. You can, just based on where your camera is, you can take out a lot of context that's important for a viewer. So again, you have eyewitnesses, you have activists, and you also have reporters. And so again, sometimes eyewitnesses and activists aren't real people. They are fake. They are created by outside bad actors to manipulate events, to manipulate your ideas. There's a very big country, Russia, that loves doing this shit. But now in American politics, people are just doing it toward each other. So we don't have to, the Russians don't have to do it anymore. We're doing it ourselves, you know, because we're America. We can always do it better. So here's the general agenda for some of the things I'm going to show you that kind of help you to be able to combat a lot of this stuff. This is what Google search looked like 20 years ago. Google had an exclamation point because they wanted you to shout their name, apparently. But it was very simple, and it really hasn't changed a lot in terms of how they get results. And we used to get them on things like this. So this is what was called a desktop computer. It would be on your desk and it weighed 900 pounds. Now we have all of that in our hand. That's a joke, but still, this is how most people would access the internet. It's now much more mobile and it's much more faster. Google search also changed. So if you typed in Indianapolis, they not only give you information about Indianapolis, they bring in a bunch of this ancillary content about the city, maybe population, the weather, are you planning a trip? They throw a lot of other information there because they know, based off billions and billions of searches, where do people go next to try to find information. What they want to do is try to think, when you search for Indianapolis, you're probably looking for Indianapolis, the city, and not the USS Indianapolis scene from Jaws. And so they try to give you that information as fast as possible. And then part of giving, so again, here's all of this stuff. And this is based off of literally them doing data. It used to be, if you looked at my name, this Irish soccer player would show up. He's the bane of my existence, but he's the most important Andy Boyle out there. But it's the same thing. More people are searching and clicking on that person's content than mine. Our devices have changed over time. So on the far left, that's actually, you used to be able to text Google, and it would respond with an answer to your query, the best that it could. There also used to be a service, I think through the University of Georgia, where you could text and there were like library grad students whose job it was to find out information and facts. There was also a phone line that you would call and be like, hi, how tall is Mount Kilimanjaro? And then somebody would be like, I'll be right back. And they come back and like, it's this tall. I'm like, thank you, phone. That was what Google used to be. There were services like this, and a couple of them still exist. But now, we can get a lot of it through our phone, and you can also like just straight up talk to your phone. And be like, hey Siri, doesn't listen to me. Cool. Yeah, doesn't always work. But anyway, similar sort of stuff. You can actually talk and get that same sort of information. So this is a quote from one of the founders of Google. The perfect search engine should understand exactly what you mean and give you back exactly what you want. This is really important when you're trying to verify something. The faster you can search for it, the faster you can actually find whether or not it's accurate. So there's a thing called advanced search, which, again, tries to give you exactly what you're looking for. Who here has ever searched on Google? Raise your hand. Okay, cool. You've heard of it. There's all of these extra little features and little things you can do and how you type stuff that can get you more accurate results that are specifically geared toward what you're trying to do. So at the very top, it's Jaguar speed and then dash car. What that does is, if you just search for Jaguar speed, you would get a lot of information about the vehicle and not the animal. By doing dash car, what it's doing is saying, no results about cars, just them other kinds of Jaguars, which will be mostly the animal. And there's like some internet service provider called Jaguar Internet. They will also pop up, but still. Same thing with Kim Jong-un site, CNN.com. That says, search on CNN.com stuff about Kim Jong-un. Same thing for Kim Jong-un site.gov. Search .gov websites, which Google has in its memory. Another powerful one is this one called Related. So let's say you are on some niche news website that you've not really heard of before, that has interesting content, and you want to find a site that's similar or might cover similar topics. If you just do related, colon in the name of it, it will find you another similar website that does similar to what that does. So in this case, this would probably bring up like Newsweek and other more general interest magazines. But again, if you're like reading Corn Monthly and you wanted to find their competitor, Corn Weekly, that's a joke, you could do something like this and it would find what else is out there that you might not even be aware of, which again will give your reporting more breadth, give you more sources of information. You can also use one of the most important ones in my opinion, which is file type. This allows you to search for stuff specifically toward files. So in this case, 2018 Indianapolis budget, file type XLS. That means show me anything that you find old, Google, that is a spreadsheet relating to the 2018 Indianapolis budget. You could also type in something in here like your, social security numbers, Nebraska, and see what pops up. I say that because my alma mater, the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, accidentally put up a spreadsheet of a bunch of students' private information like that. Financial data, social security records, all that fun stuff. It was meant to be hidden, but they accidentally made it public, and then Google found it, and somebody found it by doing a search like this. Guess what? People do that shit all the time. And governments do it all the time on accident. So you might be able to get information they normally don't want you to see because someone made a boo-boo. So it's like the bank erred in your favor. Well, in this case, you might be getting information or data that you did not know was available much faster. So it's pretty cool. And you can mix and match. You can add these together. And if you want to, this is a very quick overview of these. If you just Google the phrase Google Advanced Search, it'll take you to a page that lists all of these and also makes it a lot easier to do it, where you don't have to remember like the minus sign or site colon. It has like more human language that explains how some of this stuff works. You can also do stuff like you can search twitter.com to be able to look for stuff. I don't think this is as helpful in my opinion. That was fun. That was cute. But Google has they changed these slides on us, and so every once in a while you get a little spin. If you actually want to learn more about the actual science of how the search works, google.com/search/how search works explains a little bit more about it. because it's kind of like a black box. And Google actually regularly writes white papers and does other more like scientific research-oriented things to explain how they do what they do. Probably because they've hired too many PhD students and that's all they know. So, again, these are the search modifiers. If you go to tinyurl.com/Google search mods, there's so many of them. Like there's one guy who I've met, he works for Google. He's like the master Google search person. He knows everything. He can find anything super fast. It is terrifying. But still, that's something that's available. Google Scholar is wonderful. Who here has ever used anything like JSTOR or EBSCOhost to search, or LexisNexis to find stuff? Google Scholar is very similar to that in that it has a wide array of scholarly literatures, case law, publications, and also human sources who wrote those things for you to actually be able to do your journalism. It works a lot like Google Search, only its results give you a lot more information. So we had a lot of stuff coming out about Brett Kavanaugh and his record and stuff that he wrote. Google Scholar can actually give you examples of court filings. It can actually give you case law. It can give you stuff that he wrote. But it can also give you scientific documents. It can give you stuff in a coverage area that you might be interested in. And you can also set up alerts to send you information about something you might be like, if you cover science and there's like a specific cancer treatment that you've been working on, you can put something in here to let you know if any new papers are written specifically about leukemia research. It's a very powerful tool because, again, it gives you the names of the authors, and usually these papers require them to include their email addresses and other methods of contacting them for you to reach out and find more primary sources for this stuff. Who here has ever searched for an image on Google? Cool, a lot of people. It's really powerful. And again, it's a very similar thing where you can, I'm sure sometimes people have looked up images to use for a presentation or just to see what something looks like. It's a powerful tool, but it can also be used specifically for journalism. And if you are using it for journalism, there's this very important thing that says usage rights. Who here believes that their work should be paid for? Cool, me too. Same thing goes for when photographers make photos. They should be paid for their work. Now, there are people that make images and put them online for people to use for free. But for a very long time, news organizations were very bad stewards of copyright law, especially in the United States, especially in the broadcast world, where they would just see a photo that appeared on Twitter, and they would go, oh, that's ours now. We're going to use it on our website and our nightly news. That's not okay, because that's not your copyright. And this is why now, whenever you see anybody tweets or shares a video of something important, 900 people message them and say, can we use this in perpetuity forever and ever, amen, etc. That's so they can get the legal right to use it. Again, if you want to use something that you found, either make sure you have the right license or contact the person and give them cash money. But there's this very powerful tool that Google has, which is the reverse image search. If anything, this is one of the most best things that you should start to regularly use in your journalism. If you ever see an image that seems newsworthy and you want to use it or retweet it or share it or do anything with it, reverse image search it. If you're using the Chrome browser, you can right-click on it and a thing will pop up that just says reverse image search and stuff will pop up about it. But you can also download and upload images through, I think it's images.google.com, and it'll do a search on that image. It's incredibly powerful, like that shark on the freeway image that pops up all the time. If you do that, it'll show you when was the first time this image was used. It'll probably show an email that was sent in 2005 that's just like crazy. That shows you, one, well, that's not a new image, which means it's not news, and two, somebody shared this with kind of malicious intent. So maybe don't listen to them or believe the things that they say necessarily. And you can also do it on your phone. So again, you can upload a photo from your phone or take a photo from your camera, and it's pretty cool. So,
question.
Yes.
Or a more comment. Another way reverse image search has been used, against the publisher is if you have someone been doing a crime, you blur out the face. At least in Norway, you blur out the face. And then people, is this really? And they do the reverse image search and find the original
Yes.
photo on the website
Yes.
with full name and the photo has been used for a nice story.
Yeah, exactly.